Okay, this is part 3 of the Wet on Wet watercolor. Since the other video, I've just added a little bit of texture down here, a little bit there, darkened it at the edges, and that's all I've done. So we're going to move on. If you want to see the other 2 videos, the first 2, then there should be a link at the end of this one. So you can go back and watch it. Okay, so let's have a look down here. I hope you can see the ground. I think you can, yeah. We're going to use browns, basically brown colours, to try and build up some of these shapes. So where I've left little white areas, you can mark, you can do marks. When you put paint on to start with, it always looks too strong, you know, but you have to remember it dries about a third lighter than it is at this moment. So what looks a bit too obvious now will probably not look so obvious in 5 minutes time. So you have to bear that in mind, and it's very tempting to take a piece of blotting paper or something and blot out the strength of a colour, but it's not always the best thing to do. Sometimes it's better to leave it. Now with all painting is an illusion. It's not real, it doesn't exist other than as paint on a piece of paper. So it's not a lake with a tree, it's just marks, and you've got to actually give that impression that convinces people who are looking at it that that's what they're seeing, a tree or a mountain or whatever it is. But you don't have to do every single crevice and crack, or in the case of a tree, every little groove in the tree to make it realistic. In fact, if you do hyperrealism, I mean, it looks good, but then you're almost up same as a photograph. So so it's better to kind of give an impression. It's an impressionistic painting, you know. So right, now what I promised was to put in a boat. And I said there's a figure of 8 that's been flattened, which is ideal for creating boats. So I'll show you now. So if we're going to put a boat in here, you could put it in, oops, sorry, knocking everything around, typical me. You could put a boat in sideways on, but it would look pretty boring. Or you can put a boat in that way on and it still doesn't look that good. But if you can get it 3/4 of the way towards you or away from you, that will look better. So very lightly with a pencil, I'm just going to draw this figure of 8, and one side of the figure of 8 is bigger than the other. You may not even be able to see this line. I don't know if it'll come, but you will in a minute. I'm going to drop a vertical down from the highest point on the biggest side of the 8. Okay, then I'm going to bring a line down that curves in from the far end of the 8, and a line that curves in from this end of the 8. Now, if you ignore the bit of the 8 that's there, suddenly you have a boat. I'll just get a bit of colour and I'll draw the line, the hair on there. The old dog struck again. So you ignore this bit of the 8, this one you flatten a bit more, and suddenly you have a nice 3-dimensional boat. This side of the 8 is bigger than that side of the 8. It's that shape, but you have yourself a boat, which now you can paint in. So let's get a bit of colour. Just make up a single tone and put it in down the main area. I have to keep checking that you're in the shot. And as it goes into the bushes here, you can confuse the eye again. Just work the colour into each other a bit like that. And then you can put a shadow on it as well, which I'm just going to get a little bit of darker brown. And while this is wet on wet again, you can drop it in. Don't over rub, just drop it in. Let it do its own thing. Okay, it will spread as you work. I can do this side of the boat. I'm going to put this one in more shadow, just so it stands out. Okay, a bit more down here where it's disappearing into the shrubbery. And then you've got this bit in the middle of which is the actual inside of the boat. If you leave a little bit of a light white line there, that helps the eye follow the shape of the boat. You could, if you're careful, clean your brush, take off the excess water and just take out some paint, put it on your brush, take out a bit more, so you've got a highlight. And then when that's dry, then you can paint in the details, which I will show at a later point. So you can go back in with your dibble brush now, if you want, and just blend the two things so that the boat really does look like it's moored up against the water. Right, I'm going to do a tree here in the next video, so hopefully you'll keep watching and check the next one out, and then that for this painting we'll probably get towards the end of this painting, but it will have shown you the basic wet on wet, how to build up the structures once that's dry, how to bring in some texture, how to bring in 2 or 3 points of detail, if you like, that attract the eye, and you've got the perspective going backwards. Okay. Don't think this is beyond, if you're just starting out painting, don't think this is beyond you. Honestly, it's kind of easier than you think. And what you need to do is maybe start off with small pieces of paper, watercolor paper. You could do 4. You could tape up 4. Maybe I'll do that in another video. And just try, wet one, drop some paint in it, move it around while it's still wet. Try it. Try 4 different ones. And once you start getting the hang of it, the main points are how much water you've got on your brush. Too much water is not a good thing, except at the very beginning when you're wetting the paper and dropping in your first colours. After that, you need your brush to be semi-wet, if you like. And the more detail you put in, the drier the brush becomes. Okay, well, I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope you've got this far, and I'll see you in the next one. Check at the end here for the links. Okay, take care. Bye.